bilateral discussions that relate
Sie haben sich mit einer ganzen Reihe von Themen befasst, die sich beziehen auf die enge freundschaftliche Beziehung zwischen Deutschland und Ghana. Wir bitten jetzt um Ihre Aufmerksamkeit für zwei kurze Statements zu dem Thema, was wir heute diskutiert haben. Zunächst der Gastgeber, Herr Präsident der Republik Ghana. Sie haben das Wort.
Thank you very much and good afternoon,
Vielen
ladies and
Dank.
gentlemen.
Guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren.
It is with great pleasure and
Es
deep
ist mir eine
appreciation
große
that I
Freude und ich bin
stand
auch sehr
before you
dankbar dafür,
alongside
dass
His
ich heute hier
Excellency
vor Ihnen stehe an der
Frank
Seite
Walter
seiner
Steinmeier,
Exzellenz Frank
President
Walter
of the Federal
Steinmeier, dem
Republic of Germany,
Präsidenten der
at the
Bundesrepublik
conclusion
Deutschland.
of our bilateral discussions as part of his 3-day state visit to Ghana. This visit marks a significant milestone in the long-standing and exemplary relations between our two nations and reflects our shared commitment to deepening cooperation, friendship, and solidarity for the mutual benefit of our people. Our relationship spans several centuries, and since the formal establishment of diplomatic relations in 1957, year of Ghana's independence, it has grown steadily and significantly. Germany has remained a steadfast and reliable partner supporting Ghana's development through technical and financial cooperation in key sectors such as health, education, vocational and technical training, renewable energy, good governance, and peacekeeping. These interventions have contributed immensely to our institutional development, youth empowerment, and sustainable growth. During our extensive bilateral discussions this morning, President Steinmeier and I reviewed the current state of Ghana-Germany relations with great satisfaction, and we identified new and expanded pathways for our collaboration. We reaffirmed the strong bonds of friendship between our two countries, and these bonds are rooted in mutual respect, shared democratic values, human rights, the rule of law, and a common vision for peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. I briefed President Steinmeier thoroughly on Ghana's current economic situation and our Resetting Ghana agenda, which aims to restore macroeconomic stability, foster inclusive and sustainable growth, and tackle corruption, improve public financial management, and rebuild investor confidence in our economy. And I'm pleased to report that we're making tangible progress on this agenda, and the early signs are promising. I reaffirmed Ghana's strong dedication to creating an enabling environment to attract more German private sector investment, particularly within the framework of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is headquartered here in Accra. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers unparalleled opportunities for German and other businesses to enter a market of over 1.3 billion population across the continent, with Ghana positioned as the strategic gateway and partner. Our discussions also focused on Germany's forward-looking Africa strategy under the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, which prioritizes sustainability, decent employment, gender equality, climate resilience, and peace and security. We've identified specific opportunities for stronger collaboration in renewable energy, green industrialization, digital transformation, and skills development. These sectors are crucial to Ghana's future, and they align with global sustainability objectives. I especially welcome the ongoing productive cooperation between Ghana's Ministry of Labour, Jobs and Employment, and several leading German companies to strengthen technical and vocational education and training for our young people. Both sides expressed optimism about the upcoming agreement on labor mobility, which will enable safe, respectful, and well-structured employment opportunities for young Ghanaian professionals in Germany, while addressing skills shortages in key German sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, on regional and international topics, President Steinmeier and I had open and constructive discussions on peace and security in West Africa, particularly regarding the growing threats of terrorism, violent extremism, and political instability in the Sahel region. I briefed the President on Ghana's proactive diplomatic engagement to foster dialogue and rebuild trust and strengthen cooperation amongst our neighbors, including my recent appointment of a special envoy to the Alliance of Sahelian States to promote regional stability, cohesion, and integration. I wish to commend Germany's steadfast and principled support for regional peace and development in our sub-region. We also reviewed our strong cooperation in international peacekeeping. Ghana sincerely appreciates Germany's leadership in hosting the 2025 United Nations Peacekeeping Ministerial in Berlin, which promoted key reforms in global peacekeeping operations. Ghana, which had the honor of hosting the 2023 edition in Accra, looks forward to further collaboration to build institutional capacities, conduct joint training exercises, and leverage technology and innovation to address the emerging threats, including cyber insecurity and climate-related conflicts. Ghana is deeply concerned about recent actions that jeopardize the rule-based international order, especially the global trade system that has supported decades of prosperity and development around the world. The dismantling of established multilateral frameworks and the rise of unilateral protectionism threaten to plunge the world into economic instability, greater inequality, and conflict. I invite Germany to share Ghana's strong commitment to multilateralism, the United Nations system, the World Trade Organization, and international law. We will urge all nations to resist the lure of economic nationalism and to collaborate in reforming, not dismantling, the institutions that unite us as a globe. The challenges of our era, climate change, pandemics, terrorism, migration, and poverty, cannot be tackled by any one nation alone. They require our collective action, dialogue, and compromises. Regarding Africa's representation in global governance, Ghana continues its long-standing and legitimate demand for Africa's permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Africa, with 54 countries and over 1.4 billion people, remains the only inhabited continent in this world without a permanent representation on the world's most influential decision-making body. This historical injustice must be corrected. The African Union's Ezulwini Consensus and the CERT Declaration clearly express Africa's stance. The continent demands at least 2 permanent seats with veto power, along with additional non-permanent seats. Germany has consistently supported UN Security Council reform and Africa's rightful place at the table. I wish to commend President Steinmeier and the German government for this principled stand, and Ghana calls on all nations to move beyond rhetoric and take action to make the Security Council more representative, democratic, and legitimate. Ladies and gentlemen, the visit of President Steinmeier has been substantive and deeply symbolic. It reaffirms our shared aspirations for a renewed and elevated partnership between our countries. This is not just a partnership of governments, but increasingly one involving our private sector, civil society groups, youth researchers, and cultural institutions. The obstacles we face are significant, but so is our resolve and determination. In President Steinmeier, Ghana has found not just a partner, but a friend who recognizes that Africa's development is crucial to global peace and prosperity, and that genuine partnership must be based on equality, mutual respect, and shared benefits. On behalf of the government and people of Ghana, I extend our heartfelt appreciation and warmest gratitude to His Excellency Steinmeier, to his distinguished delegation, and the people of the Federal Republic of Germany for the honor of this visit and for Germany's enduring friendship and solidarity with Ghana and Africa. I wish President Steinmeier and his delegation safe travels as they continue their visit, including engagements with young IT specialists in Accra and a visit to our Ashanti region tomorrow. May God bless Ghana, may God bless Germany, may God bless the partnership between our two great nations. I thank you.
I now have the pleasure of inviting His Excellency Franz Walter Steinmeier to address the media.
Verehrter Herr Präsident Mahama, lieber Herr Kollege, ich will Ihnen zu Anfang persönlich und den Bürgerinnen und Bürgern von Ghana ganz herzlichen Dank sagen für den warmherzigen Empfang, den wir hier erfahren haben.
I personally would like to say to you that I'm delighted to be back in Accra. If I'm right, this is my 4th visit to Ghana and to your beautiful capital. 2 visits I paid in a time where I happened to be in the position of Federal Foreign Minister, and then a visit in my first term as Federal President when I came here in 2017, and I am back today. We met more often, though, also personally, if I remember correctly, in 2015, when both of us attended a business summit that brought together Ghanaian and German representatives of industry and business. Then again, we met at the beginning of this year at the Munich Security Conference, and surprise, surprise, we met again, sitting side by side the day before yesterday on the opening event of the Grand Egyptian Museum in Cairo, a magnificent event, I have to say. We both agreed in that, the President and I. However, it's not only about regular visits that we ought to pay each other, but it is much more that is at stake. Why have I decided to visit your country? It's easy to explain. Ghana is a lively democracy, the 3rd largest economy in West Africa, and last but not least, as you pointed out in your statement, Mr. President, a committed regional actor, playing an important part as a mediator, being a very important partner in that regard. And I'm delighted that after this very friendly and constructive exchange that we've just concluded, I look forward to more points on my agenda, on my program during this visit to Accra, and then also later when I visit the capital of Ashanti, Kumasi, that is. President, you rightly pointed out that Ghana and Germany are linked and have been linked by a long-standing close partnership and friendship. To be honest, basically reaching back to the day that the country became independent. We are also celebrating the 50th anniversary of development cooperation between Ghana and Germany. And together we're working to lay the foundation for a sustainable economic development that will benefit Ghana, but I hasten to add it will also benefit Germany. And I'm happy to say that today we've also been able to bring good news, good tidings, that of course pending on the approval of the German Parliament, the Bundestag that is, Germany will again commit more than 65 million euro to Ghana in the framework of our development cooperation, which equals more than 823 million Ghana CD. The details will be negotiated before the end of this month. But we are also very active when it comes to educating and training the young generation. That point was very important in our discussions today, because this is what we're focusing on, the young generation, be they employed in the health sector, the pharmaceutical industry, in the digital economy. We want to provide decent jobs for them. We cooperate in the field of enhancing energy efficiency and in the expansion of renewable energies. We also agreed today that in order to strengthen our partnership, we will in future have regular political consultations at senior level, touching on bilateral, regional and international matters of mutual concern and interest. This is in line with our desire to enhance and intensify our cooperation with key partners like Ghana, and also to expand it at the strategic level. As far as the economy is concerned, I'd like to underline that Ghana is an important trading partner for Germany in sub-Saharan Africa, one of the regions in the world that shows the very strong growth. Our trade balance is almost balanced, and the volume has increased last year by more than a quarter to 626 million euro. That is almost 8.3 billion CDs. We want to and can, as we agreed, to further expand the trade and benefit of the investment potential, of which I think that we haven't fully tapped it yet. This is why I invited representatives of important German companies to accompany me on my visit to Ghana. The members of my delegation include specialists in the area of the development and the building of infrastructure, down to high technology, satellite and medicine technology, and much more than that. Let me assure you that, having talked to the business delegation as I came here on the plane, Ghana is already a very attractive location for many companies and a very important hub here in the region. A hub that allows you also to serve the markets in the vicinity, in the neighborhood here. And you have many advantages speaking in your favor that you wouldn't find elsewhere in Africa. The people here are well skilled. English is widely spoken, and also I hasten to add the time difference between Ghana and Europe is negligible. These are all factors that, taken together, make Ghana the ideal partner. But at the same time, it is also about providing perspectives for the quickly growing young population of Ghana, and I look very much forward to the opportunity of engaging with startup founders later today to hear more about their innovative ideas and services which they want to make available to Germany too. But our discussion did not only touch on economic issues, but we also spoke about science and skilled labor, which is a central element of our bilateral relations. Research is, for example, something that is very prominent in Kumasi, where we'll be tomorrow. At the Kwame Nkrumah University and around the university, you will find several major Ghanaian German research projects located. On the one hand, you have the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, the KCCR for Tropical Medicine. This is a very good case in point, and I look forward to engaging in an exchange of views with the research staff there, who cooperate with the Bernhard Nocht Institute for Tropical Medicine. And they work with the Bernhard Nocht Institute and the Charité in Berlin in the development of vaccines aimed to prevent future epidemics. In the area of vocational training too, Ghana and Germany have been cooperating closely in order to cover the demand for skilled labor in both our countries. Tomorrow we will be attending the groundbreaking ceremony for a new building which is to be used for the training of people. This also includes a medical training school for nursing staff, where 200 well-qualified care staff will be trained starting next year for the Ghanaian economy. The importance of this academic exchange for our bilateral relations is demonstrated by the fact that the German Academic Exchange Service opened an outpost at the beginning of this year, in April this year in Accra. Last year alone, roughly 1,500 young Ghanaian students, doctoral students, scientists and academics have been promoted in the framework of this activity. And if I may add, Mr. President, this interest that young Ghanaians show in Germany is something that we are very pleased to note. Allow me also to underline, ladies and gentlemen, the role that Ghana plays with regard to regional cooperation in West Africa, and I expressly welcome the fact that you, President Mahama, have assumed responsibility for regional cooperation and integration. We both agree that cross-border challenges like terrorism, transnational organized crime, and climate change too require cross-border responses, and this is just as true in West Africa as it is in Europe. The northern border region of Ghana is a case in point for this common approach. It borders on the central Sahel, which, as we all know, is hard hit by terrorism and instability. Germany, together with the European Union, is supporting efforts of the Ghanaian government that aim at creating long-term stability and development. And Germany has been cooperating closely with Ghana and ECOWAS. I paid a visit to the headquarters of ECOWAS last December and actually talked about these common challenges, and our objective is to address them together. Allow me to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, by pointing to something that we unfortunately have been forced to highlight these days at joint press conferences, and that is our common commitment and engagement for multilateralism, because you can no longer take it for granted. We both agree that a rules-based international order is what we need to stem conflicts, to prevent them wherever possible. And this international order can only rest on the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. Dear colleague, dear Mahama, the exchange with you has provided me with the opportunity to also talk about reform proposals for the international order. Again, here we have a lot in common. Germany supports the so-called Isolvini consensus, the demand for 2 permanent and further non-permanent seats on the Security Council of the United Nations for African countries. And it was the foreign ministers of the G4 countries of Brazil, Germany, India and Japan, that is, the foreign ministers of these 4 countries have reaffirmed that in the framework of the General Assembly in September this year. Mr. President Mahama, there are many tasks that we need to address together bilaterally. I very much look forward to continuing the friendly cooperation with you and your country, and I'm sure there's a lot of potential that we can both tap with regard to our relations, and I am convinced we will do the best in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. The 2 presidents will now take a few questions from members of the media present. We'll start with a question from Kester Kranchi, who represents the Daily Graphic.
Thank you very much. My question is for both of you, so I'll be glad if any of you can answer it. Given the complex security challenges in the Sahel and Ghana's effort to engage with the new Alliance for Sahel States, how can Germany and Ghana enhance their practical cooperation in, for instance, through the Accra Initiative or the Sahel Alliance that Germany leads to combat terrorism and also address its root causes through development and economic partnerships?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are aware, the 3 Saharan states of West Africa decided to leave the ECOWAS and form their own confederation. I believe that we need continuous dialogue and engagement to be able to resolve some of the mutual challenges that we commonly face. The Accra Initiative was set up as a platform for our joint fight against violent extremism in the West African sub-region. Unfortunately, currently, the AES states are not participating in the Accra Initiative. And so what I've been engaged with is seeking a new platform that can bring them on board, because the fight is not theirs alone. It's a sub-regional fight, because violent extremism is like a cancer. It continues to grow and spread. And so currently we have discussions. I was in Mali a week ago to discuss the issue of a joint platform where we can collaborate to help them, and the international community can assist in the joint fight against violent extremism.
Berlin und Accra liegen einige tausend Kilometer auseinander, aber wir haben ähnliche Interessen und leider auch dieselben Sorgen. Und eine der Sorgen, bezieht sich auf die Destabilisierung, die wir in den letzten Jahren in Westafrika erlebt haben. Wir haben unseren Teil in der Vergangenheit zu tun versuchen, um diesen Prozess zu verhindern. Deutschland war engagiert über viele Jahre lang, auch mit militärischem Beistand in Mali, bis zu einem Zeitpunkt, als sich die innenpolitischen Verhältnisse in Mali veränderten und unser Aufenthalt dort nicht mehr gewünscht war. Aber Sie mögen auch an meinen Reiserouten erkennen, dass ich immer wieder in Westafrika unterwegs gewesen bin, wie ich und eben erzählt habe, auch im vergangenen Dezember mich im Headquarter von ECOWAS über die Entwicklung, insbesondere den Staaten, die für sich eine andere Zukunft suchen, dass ich dort unterwegs gewesen bin, um zu hören und zu erfahren, welche Richtung die Entwicklung nimmt. Ich kann nur sagen, ich habe voller Hoffnung auf die Accra-Initiative geschaut. Ich bin verfolge intensiv und respektiere sehr die Bemühungen des ghanaischen Präsidenten, auch durch Besuche in den 3 Ländern, Niger, Burkina Faso und Mali, Zusammenarbeitsformen,
trying through those visits to identify forms of cooperation that would not necessarily immediately mean these countries were to return to the initiative, but would allow for some ways of cooperation. I very much welcome these efforts by the Ghanaian President.
We'll now take a question from Ulrich Steinbrück.
Nun eine Frage von Herrn Steinbrück, DP.
Well, we can hear you.
So, my name is Ulrich Steinkohl. I'm correspondent of the German Press Agency in Berlin.
Der deutschen Presseagentur in Berlin.
A question to you both.
Eine Frage an Sie
Herr
beide.
Präsident Mahama, das Thema Fachkräftegewinnung wurde angesprochen. Meine Frage ist, gibt es eigentlich in Ihrem Land großes Interesse bei jungen Menschen nach Deutschland zu kommen? Und in welchen Berufen kann man sich das vorstellen? Und Herr Bundespräsident, machen wir eigentlich genug, um solche junge Menschen für uns hier in Ghana und anderen Staaten Afrikas zu gewinnen?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a discussion that is ongoing. We know that Africa has a growing young, virile population, and many, if you look at our demographic profile, about 60% of our population are below the age of 35. They have varied skills in digitalization, in energy, fintech, in construction, operating heavy earth moving equipment, engineering, welding, plumbing, electricians, technicians, and there are so many of such areas that we have the skill set. But we believe that migration should not be irregular, where our young people hazard their lives crossing the Sahara and trying to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. And so we believe that bilateral agreements between us and other European countries that allow these skilled young people to go and work on fixed contracts in Europe, be able to earn a decent income and bring that expertise back to our country is the better way to go. And so the discussions with Germany are ongoing, and I believe that at the end of those discussions, we'll be able to find a way where we're able to contribute to ameliorate the skills shortage that Europe is facing, but at the same time create opportunities for our young people to be able to experience a whole new world.
Ja, Herr Steinkohl, zu Ihrer Frage. Ich glaube, das Interesse junger Menschen aus Ghana kann man gar nicht unterschätzen. Es ist vielleicht in den letzten Jahren eher ablesbar gewesen.
It has been perhaps more visible over the past few years when you look at the number of students that, with the support of the German Academic Exchange Service, have tried to come to Germany. 10,500 were the figures of students coming from Ghana. This is quite an impressive figure, I have to say. But the President has been pointing to one fact, and quite rightly did so, that interest was limited to academic professions, and rightly we were preparing the ground in a new way over the last 2 years. We have to better advertise that Germany has just passed a modern skilled migration act that allows for skilled labor to come to Germany through legal pathways. But of course that has to be accompanied by efforts that we have undertaken in Ghana. In my introductory remarks I said that we are working in the sector of vocational training, nurses being trained, a whole host of technical professions. We are not only supporting this through the Ministry for Economic Cooperation that provides vocational training efforts here, but it is also something that the Chamber of Commerce, the business community support with the Chamber of Commerce that is here on the ground and that carries out joint projects that it has developed together with Ghana in order to allow young people that have been trained here to find pathways to Germany. So we have this modern skilled immigration law, skilled migration law, which applies, but as I said, Germany has to make sure that it is better advertised, people get to know about it, and we also have to reduce the impediments to making their way into Germany.
Of the table briefings will now ask a question.
Well, thank you very much. My question is also towards both of you. Presidents, you both mentioned the importance of multilateral engagement when it comes to climate change. COP30 will be starting next week. President Mahama, what is your goal at the COP next week, especially when you look at the USA but also Europe, who are USA more than Europe, but both sort of stepping back from their engagements. What do you expect, and what is your expectations also from Germany, from the German side? And Mr. President Steinmeier, what can Germany offer to countries from the global south, for example, like Ghana?
Thank you very much. Indeed, our delegation is getting ready to leave for Belém, where the next COP will take place. Africa is in a peculiar situation because we're suffering some of the most adverse effects of climate change. We have desertification. The Sahara is expanding. We have dry spells, and so rains are unpredictable. We have flooding. We have bushfires and so many other adverse effects from climate change, and yet we contributed the least to the current situation that we face. We have tidal waves that are washing away our coastal communities and all that. And so for Africa, our main issue with the COP is that the funding gaps that exist, Africa is the least able to cover those funding gaps, and persistently pledges in terms of assisting with adaptation and in terms of assisting with the whole fight against climate change have not been forthcoming, especially from the global north. We go to COP, pledges are made, but unfortunately we're very short on delivery. And so we will continue to advocate that for the countries that have been the biggest polluters, they should step forward and put the cash up front so that everybody can draw from that fund to be able to ameliorate some of the adverse effects that we have. Ghana has its national determined goals, and so we have done our report on what the progress has been in terms of achieving our nationally determined targets. And I believe that our delegation that is going to Belém is going to put that forward to the international community.
Viele Krisen rund den Erdball, eine tiefe wirtschaftliche Krise, die Europa und auch große Teile Afrikas durchlaufen, haben dafür gesorgt, dass der Kampf gegen den Klimawandel vielleicht im Augenblick nicht die politische Konjunktur hatte, die er in den letzten Jahren hatte, aber der Klimawandel findet weiter statt und er verursacht Schäden. Deshalb hoffe ich sehr, wie Präsident Mahama eben ausgeführt hat,
as President Mahama rightly explained, the upcoming COP in Brazil will hopefully reach solutions regarding the outstanding issues, the question of compensation for damage. At the two previous summits, we've not been able to reach agreement on this topic. As far as my visit to Ghana is concerned, we also had an intensive exchange of views about the fact that the impact of climate change needs to be addressed not only at major conferences, but also on the ground. You have potential with regard to developing solar energy. President Mahama has expressed a major interest in cooperating with German companies in that regard. He signaled that to us. And secondly, we might be helpful in those areas where rural development is not taking place to the extent required. When it comes to the 10% of the area that has not been covered by electrical grid, where we might be helpful in setting or finding solutions to make it easier to take electricity to these outlying regions and make it more affordable and fundable. So we're talking challenges of different types here, but they belong together. Once we're better to produce electricity with regenerative energy sources, for example.
Excellencies,
Vielen Dank.
This brings us to an end.
Damit ist diese Pressekonferenz.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power.